Are you the type of producer who every once in a while makes an absolutely amazing track, but then can't figure out why a couple of your songs are just absolutely terrible? It feels like you have certain records or certain beats that really just stand out and other ones aren't as good. That's kind of the stage I was in for like quite a few years in the music industry, and I kind of understand that struggle. But as my career developed, I realized certain things, certain tendencies and habits that I started to pick up that actually made me make a lot better music more consistently. So if that's you, or you just want to know some cool tricks for making better music, this video is going to show you exactly how, and it's going to be super simple. Small disclaimer, you don't have to use every single one of these tips every time, but feel free to use them at your discretion. So I'm going to build a song and try to explain things as I go. So the first thing that's going to help you guys make a lot better music is actually to start off with one or two things. Either can start with something like a raw serum patch, just like a raw synth, or you can start with just a plain piano. It doesn't matter if you're writing your melodies. I personally like to use a lot of MIDI, but make sure that your melody is very catchy and sounds great just with the raw piano. Has to stand strong enough alone, meaning I want the melodies to be so good, even just with the piano. If somebody was just jamming out with that melody, that it's so catchy that a lot of listeners will love it. Because when we start to apply sounds, drums, and basses, of course it's going to be good, but is it catchy enough to the ear? Is the melody itself catchy enough before we do all the fancy tricks? If you can kind of pass that first test, you're going to get a lot better music. And I think one important note is that don't settle. When you hear it, it should right away speak to you like, oh, that melody is fucking amazing. And if you don't feel that, don't start your song. A lot of people like click one or two samples or try a different MIDI or write their first chord progression. They immediately start working on a song that might take 40 different hours on a song that you probably shouldn't have finished in the first place. So I'm going to take my time here. I'm going to find a MIDI that really speaks to me to start, because I want the foundation to be really good. I'm going to do that same trick I said. I'm going to test it with serum. So see how some raw chords sound on it. So I think it's like a cool basis for a song or a beat, depending on where I go with it. I just tested out serum real quick to see like what kind of potential does this have if I go into synths, right? I'm just kind of slightly curious, but I'm gonna start with piano. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna spend a lot of time on making sure the sound is right. One thing that I do is you can go into any sort of VST. I personally love to use like one-shot melodic samples. So I'm gonna pull up some one-shots and see if I can find something that sounds good. I already like that sound. Kind of has some cool characteristics, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stack some layers, but I'm gonna keep using that same MIDI and I'm gonna keep looking for more. By the way, the reason I love one-shot melodic samples and I use them almost over VST all the time is because a lot of times there's imperfections. Like listen to some of the little static or nuance or sometimes slight going out of key towards the end of the note. These little different things add so much character when you play them with chords. So we're gonna keep trying out more. So much emotion, right? I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing into the drums, 808s. I'm like, oh, let me get some vibes going. I really like this layer. This layer is like, I'm feeling that shit, right? I'm taking my time. Just that's important. Most important thing is take your time, right? I'm going to keep looking for more, because when I have multiple layers here, I'm able to like mix and match them and do interesting things with them. Also, when you find multiple layers, it also helps later when it comes to the song arrangement process, because sometimes you didn't even know it, but another one of the sounds you were testing ends up being perfect for a breakdown or the intro or something. I really like that. I don't know if you noticed, but when I was soloing that sound a second ago, actually a little bit it's out of key. That's what I talked about. Like, listen, that shit ain't in perfect C. But that's the beautiful part about it, because when I stack the layers together, it creates a harmonizing effect that actually adds to the quality, the fact that it's not perfectly on C, similar to a big crowd singing and, everybody sucks at singing, but because it's a giant crowd, it sounds perfect. Already, without any drums, I'm already in love with this melody. I'm in love with the sounds, and I know that effect is also going to happen on the listener. So just taking your time, making sure that you're starting at a good place is going to lead you so much better. If I would have rushed into the first MIDI I clicked or the first sound, I don't think the outcome would have been as good, and a lot of producers just settle too early and end up getting something that's kind of mediocre. But okay, cool. So I like what I got here. The next tip that's very, very important after sound selection, after making sure that your melodies are very catchy, is actually going to be to really find a good top line. So this is in D minor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go find a stem layer. I'm thinking maybe guitar. It could be a vocal or something, but I want to pair this with something else. And notice how I'm spending so much time on the melodic elements before the drums and stuff, right? Here's an important thing to note. If you have amazing melodics, right? If you have an amazing melody, but you don't have drums, you still have a song. But if you don't have melody and you just have drums, you don't really have a song. You just have some rhythms, right? I mean, I don't see many people dropping drum records. I'm sure, yes, you can find some random fucker. Yes. But for the most part, melodies are songs. But without that, you don't have that. So I think it's very important to focus a lot of time on making sure the melodies sound great. So I kind of like this, but this is one I would actually have to play with a little bit, which I'm about to, because one, this guitar has a lot of low end to it and it's kind of clashing. So I'm gonna just take my time to make sure if I even like this one, I'm gonna play with it a little bit, but if I don't, I'm gonna move over, but I need to make sure it sounds good before I move on. So first thing I'm gonna do is add origin to it. That's gonna give it that, you know, lo-fi kind of feel, but then I also wanna just cut some more of the lows. Maybe add a delay, give it a little bit more epic feeling. Okay, cool. So I really like that guitar, but I'm gonna keep looking for more layers to see if there's a better winner. Like what I'm playing with here. I currently already have some cool melodies, but like I said, I'm not moving on till I find exactly what I want. And I'm going to be combining these layers now to see if I can get this idea laid down with less busyness. Because right now I think there's a lot of melodies trying to fight each other for the spotlight here. And I'm going to try and see if I can solve that. I really like the vibe of this track. It's chill. So now's the time I'm gonna start going to the drums, and which leads us to our next tip. Reuse your best sounds. There is nothing wrong with reusing your best sounds. Like the way I get the best mixes is I'm already gonna go test out a few different samples. I know which folders to look in. I know the different sounds are gonna be sounding great. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and place where you wanna download new sets of sounds and try out new stuff. But at the end of the day, once you find the stuff you like out of those new packs, save them however you need to and come back to them. That's gonna be a really important step to getting more consistent mixes, especially. I already know there's this wet percussion folder inside of Equinox. One other quick tip. I absolutely love using hi-hat loops. I will never draw in hi-hats. I'll either use hi-hat MIDI or I will use a hi-hat loop, or I'm going to two-step the hi-hat. Another quick little tip here. If you're in here and there's a certain part of production that you want to keep flowing the idea, like I don't want to lose my flow if I'm enjoying this and sit there and have to tinker with the damn hi-hats, like keep the flow going. Just use a fucking hi-hat loop. Sometimes you can even put placeholder stuff in just to keep that flow going. What I like to do is I'll slice the loop up like this and rearrange it. See, I just rearranged the entire loop and now I have a new one. Like this one. I already know this 808 is fire. There's a reason I've highlighted it. Any sounds you see a star by, it means I like the sound and I've already used it in something before. I swear this 808 helps me get really good mixes. I'm caught in a situation where I know this 808 sounds great, but one of the issues, it goes a little lower than I usually like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it up probably 1, 2, 3, and then the last one goes up maybe. So now I'm gonna bring everything up. I think it kind of turned out okay. I probably could swing better, but you got to think the beginning of the song process, like laying down ideas can take what, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Think about this. How long does it take you to finish a song? I'm talking all the little micro details, doing the song arrangement, intro, breakdown, listening to it, doing the chord test. There is so much more work left ahead than just starting the original idea, okay? So my next step is don't be afraid to abandon the project. So what we're about to do is we're about to hit new and we're gonna start another project. And I think that the project's okay. I just don't know if I cared to invest more time into it. The reason being is I don't really believe in that, like, I'm gonna polish it. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of a certain level of good. I might render it out and put it into my project ideas to come back later. But at the end of the day, I scrap a lot of songs and I just move on. I'm gonna have better odds just restarting than I am doing it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make another song. I'm gonna actually start with Serum so I can kind of show you guys my process from that. And I'm gonna take the same steps and we're gonna do it again. Yo, so I'm gonna pause the video real quick to show you this. For the past 8 years, Cymatics has spent over $6 million on samples, studio sessions, sound designers, working with engineers, and I'm pretty much the only one in the world who has the entire discography of every single sample out there. And fun little fact, I have had samples on this thing used by Drake, Bad Bunny, Trippie Redd, Meg Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj, Roddy Ricch, Future, the list goes on. And I just want to quickly say, if you wanted to try out some of these samples, I'm actually offering 5 gigs for free that has melodies, hard-hitting drums, percussion loops, vocals, all that kind of great stuff. Just click on the link in the description, you get 5 gigs for free. And if you want access to the entire 500 gig plus collection, after you download it, go check out the full collection inside the Cymatics vault. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Okay. Sorry, just having a little fun there. Anyways, yeah, that pretty much wraps up the video. I think if you want to take away one thing from this video, at the beginning of the song, overinvest the amount of time in sound selection, making sure the melodies sound great, making sure the top lines sound great, and making sure that it's something that's memorable and kind of speaks to you right away. If you start with that, everything else is going to be easier. Your songs are going to be more consistent. And then those songs, if you start off with that, when you put in the 40 hours of the little bit of polish on every little element of the track, you're going to be polishing not a turd, but a better song. You know, they say don't polish a turd. You know, you're going to be spending the time on the right type of thing. So if you follow these tips, I think you guys get a lot of benefit. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to click the link in the description. You'll get those 5 free gigs of awesome samples.